guys, Becky here, FiveTwoBaker. Welcome back to my channel. Today I'll be sharing with you how I make sugar roses without the use of any fancy tools or equipment. So we won't be using veiners or cutters. We're just going to use tools that we find around the house, and you'll be able to make beautiful roses like these. So whether you're stuck at home and don't have access to any cutters or veiners or anything like that, or you just want to see if you enjoy making sugar flowers, this will be a good video. Okay, so you're going to need some wire for the flower itself, a few short pieces for the leaves, a cutter, mine is a medicine cup, your flower paste in whatever color you want, along with the color paste for the leaves, some cornstarch and a brush to dust it, a few spoons to lay your petals to dry, some liquid glue or water and a brush, a knife to cut out the leaves, and some Hershey's cocoa. Darker cocoa is preferred, and then a rolling pin. So to start off, grab your flower wire and make a little circle at the top. A stronger wire is preferred, but I don't have it, so I'm just using a double thin wire. Go ahead and tape that up. If you have a single wire, then you don't need to tape it. Don't worry about it. Then you dip it in some of that water or glue, dab the excess off, and condition your paste. I recommend gum paste for the center because it dries faster and it dries really hard. And you just go ahead and form a cone for the center of your bud. My cone is going to be about 1 inch wide and a little over 1.5 inches tall. And I'm actually going to make 2 of them for this video, but you only need to make 1 if you want. So go ahead and put some cornstarch on your flower paste and roll it out so that one side of it is super thin and the other side is about twice as thick as the thin side. And that's so that you have thin petals for the center, and then you have a little bit more to stretch out the petal and make a bigger petal on the other side, since we're only using one size cutter for this. Cut out 20 petals for the large rose and 5 extra if you're going to make a little bud. Once they're all cut out, go ahead and remove any excess and flip all your petals over so that you can dust both sides and make sure they're not too sticky. Once you have that done, grab your first petal, one of the thinner ones, and start to roll it out. And I'm using the back of my brush. I'm just rolling it side to side to stretch out and thin out the petal a bit. Sandwich it between your 2 palms, and that will be your DIY vein. And then you go ahead and carefully peel it off and lay it down to rest on a spoon. Another way to do it is to go ahead and dust your petal, and on the palm you just roll around the brush end as if it were a ball tool. Depending on what you're using to roll out your petals, you'll have to decide whether to roll it out or to just move it side to side. Now once it is on your spoon, you can use your fingertips to roll it back a bit, or you can go ahead and grab a toothpick and while it's sitting on your spoon, go ahead and roll it back. For the more center petals, I usually only roll one side of it. For me, it's usually my right side. And then for the outer petals, I go ahead and roll both sides so that the larger the petal is and the more mature the petal, the more curl it has. For the very, very center petals, I just leave them flat. You go ahead and repeat this process for all of your petals. And even if they come out a little wonky and a little odd shaped, you just give it a curl and it'll all work out. There'll be a place for each petal. Torn, wonky, whatever. We'll have space for all of them. Now, once you have all your petals on a spoon, go ahead and grab your bud and apply a little bit of water or glue, whatever you're using, all around the bud, just a very thin layer so it's tacky. And grab one of those flat, smaller petals and wrap it around so that it's hugging the bud. There's a little excess on mine. I rip it off because no one can see that, so who cares? And you grab another small petal and you put it on the opposite end and give that first petal a little hug. And then when you're gluing them, just make sure to glue the very bottom of it. You want to leave the petal at the top open. And now for the rest of the petals that I'll be doing right now, you want to only glue the lower left hand of each of your petals so that your rose is flowy and it's not all clumped together. And once you're ready, you grab your petal and you want to start not by stacking them but by overlapping them. So the center of this petal is on top of the seam of the others, and then I tuck the next one under that, and then I grab the next one, tuck it under the last one, grab the next, tuck it under the last, and you can make this as full or as airy as you like. You just get a feel for it and you do as you please. Once you are happy with that first row of petals, go ahead and make sure to glue the bottoms and adjust it as you need. And then what we're going to do is we're going to let the rest of the larger petals dry up a bit so that they're more of a leathery feel and they can hold their own weight. And you'll see what I mean. I let these dry upside down also, by the way. So here it goes. You want it to stand by itself, be flexible, but not flop over entirely. If you hold it, it should be able to stand up. So go ahead and grab that bud from earlier. It'll still be a little soft. That's good. You want to work with it that way. And you line up your petals in order of size, leaving the biggest, most curly ones for the very end. You'll want to set aside, if you did 25 petals, about 5 petals for your other bud. And starting with the smallest petals that you're keeping for this flower, go ahead and glue the lower left hand again and tuck it under one of the petals that are already glued onto the bud. And the same process, you go under the last petal and glue, under the last petal and glue, under the last petal, and you keep repeating that process. Once you've got another layer of petals all the way around the rose, you go ahead and secure them with little glues at the bottom of the base of the rose. And then for your larger petals, the way you're going to glue it differently this time is that you're going to glue the bottom of it. So not the lower left hand, but the bottom of it so that it can open up even further. And same way, not stacking but overlapping the petals, you just keep going around and around until you're happy with the size or you run out of petals. Once you're done, then you just hang it upside down to dry. Now for the greens, go ahead and condition your green paste, roll it out super thin, and grab your knife and freehand a few leaves. They don't have to be perfect, they don't even have to be the same size, they just have to be similar. I'm making 4. Take the excess paste off, roll it up and save it for the calyx. And then you go ahead and grab your brush and thin out the edges of the leaves on the palm of your hand. And once you're done with that, go ahead and grab your toothpick again or a piece of wire, whatever you have handy, and score a line down the center and then all down the sides so that it looks a little more leaf-like. It has a little more of a pattern, that vein. And then you go ahead and grab those 4 pieces of wire from earlier, the short ones, and you dip it into the water or the glue and you line it on the center vein, and then you just sandwich it in. Squeeze it together, pinch off the top, and then lay it somewhere to dry. Now for the calyx, you just grab little chunks of it, nice and long, and you flatten them out with your finger. I'm going to have 5 skinny long ones and 5 chunky or thicker pieces. The thin ones will be for the open rows and the chunkier ones will be for the bud that I have. I go ahead and thin them out on my hand, and then I give them a little pinch at the top so that it has a little spike, a little pointiness to it. And again, these also do not have to be perfect. They'll look good in the end. It all comes together. You go ahead and grab your rose and you glue all along the base of it, and those 5 skinny ones, you go ahead and you place them in the shape of a star with that pointy part that you pinched going outwards. Any excess paste that you have, don't worry about it if it's starting to clump up. You just pinch it together and then you take off any of the excess. Once you're happy with how it is, then you go ahead and you fold the calyx in, you bend it out, work on the pinch, and then you set it to dry upside down. For my bud, I used extra fat pieces of calyx. 1, because I don't have petals covering all the way to the base. And 2, because it's supposed to be a bud, so I want it to look a little more covered by the calyx, like if it's just coming out of the green. So same thing, you just pinch off any excess and adjust however you'd like, and then you set it to dry upside down. Now to color. You don't need to do this, but I'm using cocoa powder. It's preferred that you use a black cocoa powder or something dark. All I had was Hershey's in my pantry, so that's what I'm using because some color is better than none. But what you do is you just dust the edges of your flower to give them a little more definition and make the petals pop so that they don't blend in with each other, since we're just using one basic color. And even if you don't see it very well on camera, you can see it in person. So even if you're just doing this for practice, it'll be good. You go ahead and you do this for your leaves as well. I get the edges of it and then I get the very center of it. I darken the center of it a little bit so that it looks like it has a little more depth to it. Now I go ahead and tape up my leaves. I do 1 bunch of 3 that's going to be for the large rose, and I tape it onto my rose. Tape it wherever you want, up high or down low, whatever works for you. And then the single one I'm just going to leave for my little bud. And here go the 2 together. They're super cute. That's it, guys. As always, if you have any questions, drop them down in the comments below and I'll make sure to get back to you. If you make any flowers, feel free to tag me. I'd love to see what you're making. And let me know if there's anything else you guys would like to see. I'd love to hear from you guys.